Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. This is lesson number 3. In lesson 3, we cover the past tense verb. So in Arabic, verbs can be divided into past tense verbs and present slash future tense verbs. This lesson deals with the past tense verbs, right? Like, so for example, he ran, she cooked, they talked. Those are all in the past tense. Um, so the way to formulate a past tense verb is different from the present slash future tense verb. So this is only dealing with verbs that are in the past tense. This is the table that we were going over in class, and the purpose of memorizing this table and learning this table is because once you've learned this table, فعل فعل فعلوا, any verb that you come across, that you find, if you know this table, then all you have to do is replace the fa'in lam in this table with the letters of the other verb. So for example, you have fa'ala, which means he did. You have fa'adu, which means they did. This is talking about a group of males, right? Because it's masculine. So if you had another verb, such as akala, akala means he ate. And now you know that akala means he ate, but now you want to know how to say they ate. So you would just go down here to third person masculine plural. And since the scale is fa'alu, all you do is you replace the fa'in lam with the letters of this verb, which is hamza kaf lam, akala, and now it becomes akadu, they ate. So you can do this with any verb that you find in Arabic. All you have to do is replace the fa'in lam with the letters of the other verb. So, for example, if we look at the verb list that is given here, kataba, which means he wrote. If you wanted to say they wrote, it would be katabu. He read is qara'a. If you wanted to say they read, meaning a group of males, you would say qara'u. Wajada means he found. If you wanted to say they found, you would say wajadu. Tabakha means he cooked. If you wanted to say they cooked, you would say tabakhu. Similarly, if you wanted to say um, I read, right? So qara'a, or let's say I ate, using the same verb. Akala means he ate. Akalu means they ate. But now I want to say I ate. So we would go down to first person singular. Okay, so it's fa'altu. Fa'altu means I did. Now all we have to do it to say I ate is replace the fa'ain lam with hamza kaf lam from akala. So now it'll be akaltu, I ate. Okay, and then this table here, table 3.1, is called al-fi'l al-madi al-ma'ruf, which means past tense verbs in the active voice. So past tense verbs can be active or passive. And the way to identify whether the verb that is being used will be active or passive is if the doer of the verb is mentioned, then you will use the active voice. If the doer of the verb is not being mentioned, then you will use the passive voice. So for example, um, if you wanted to say, um, it was eaten, okay? So akala means he ate. Okay? When you say akala, he ate, you are mentioning the doer of the verb, he. Right? So we know who's doing the action. But when you say it was eaten, you are not mentioning the doer of the verb, which means then that you are using the passive voice. because the doer is not being mentioned. Okay, so if you wanted to say it was eaten, you would use this table here, table 3.2. So فُعِلَ, it's فُعِلَ, فُعِلَ, فُعِلُوا, فُعِلَت, فُعِلَتا, فُعِلْنَا. So instead of فَعَلَ, it's فُعِلَ. But the rest of the pattern is the same. The letters are the same. It's just instead of فَعَلَ, it's فُعِلَ. But it's the same letters. فُعِلَ, فُعِلَ, فُعِلُوا. Same as the previous table. So if you wanted to say it was eaten, you would use this one right here. Ukila. Ukila means it was eaten. Um, let's look at some examples here for the passive voice right here. So it was eaten. Exercise number 2, it was eaten. You would use ukila. If you wanted to say they were cut, so plural masculine, they were cut. So notice here, the doer of the verb is not being mentioned. Who is doing the cutting? That is not being mentioned. This tells us that we will use the passive voice. We are using the passive voice, not the active voice. In this sentence, they were cut. The doer is not being mentioned. So we will first identify the verb for cutting, which is down here, قطع, be cut. And we want to say they were cut, plural masculine. So we'll go to table 3.2 here. They were cut. So this is third person, masculine, plural. And so we're going to use this scale here, فُعِلُوا. So the letters of the verb for cutting are qaf, ta, and ayn. So you're going to replace the fa, ayn, lam with the letters qaf, ta, ayn. So it'll be قُطِعُوا, قُطِعُوا. They were cut. Let's do another example. They were made. They were made. This is plural, feminine. Okay, so what is the verb for making? Let's look at the table here, the word list. The word for making is صنع. صنع means he made. We want to say they were made, plural feminine. Okay, same thing here. Notice here, the doer of the verb is not being mentioned. They were made. We don't know who made them. We just know that they were made. So the doer is not being mentioned. This tells us that we will be using the passive voice. So we're not going to use table 3.1 because that's active voice. That's when the doer is being mentioned. We're going to use the table 3.2, and we will locate the plural feminine third person form for this verb. So صنع is he made, and then we'll go to third person feminine because it's feminine, and then plural. So they were made would be here. So the scale is فُعِلْنَا. So what we do is we replace the فَعِلْنَا with the letters of the verb that we are looking for, which the letters are صاد, نون, and عين. صنع. So it'll be صُنِعْنَا. صُنِعْنَا. They were made. صُنِعْنَا. Okay. Let's also start lesson number 4. Lesson number 4, in the beginning of the course, we mentioned that there are two types of sentences in Arabic, or jumlas. A jumla ismiya, which is a sentence that begins with an ism, and a jumla fi'liya, which is a sentence that begins with a fi'l. Okay, so we've covered the jumla ismiya. So remember the lesson on mubtada khabar. That is how you form a jumla ismiya, right? You have a mubtada and you have a khabar, and that forms a jumla ismiya. To form a jumla fi'liya, which means that the first word of the sentence is a fi'l, the pattern that is used to form a jumla fi'liya is you have the fi'l first, the verb comes first, and then you have the fa'il, which is the doer of the verb, and then you have the maf'ul, which is the object of the verb. Okay, so you have fi'l, followed by fa'il, followed by maf'ul. So for example, in the sentence, Hamid helped Mahmoud. The verb is help, the fa'il, the doer is Hamid, and the maf'ul or the object is Mahmoud. So Hamid helped Mahmoud. We have the fa'il helped, the fa'il Hamid, and the maf'ul is Mahmoud. Okay? The maf'ul is the person or the thing to whom or to which the action is being done. So who is being helped? Who is receiving the action of help? It's Mahmoud. So he's the maf'ul. The rule regarding the fa'il, the doer, is that the fa'il receives a dhamma or a double dhamma, dhammatain. And the rule for the maf'ul is that the maf'ul receives a fatha or fathatain, two fathas, depending on the word, right? Because some words do not accept tanween. Or if a word has an alif lam, it will not have a tanween. So in those cases, they will only have one of either dhamma or fatha. Okay. So for this example of Hamid helped Mahmoud, if you wanted to translate this into Arabic, first you would identify the verb. So the verb is help, and the Arabic for help is nasara. Nasara means he helped, and we have a whole table, right? In the previous lesson, we covered that there are different forms of each verb. For example, you have nasara, you have nasara, nasaru, nasarat, nasarata, nasarna. So, which of the forms of the verb will we be using in the example of Hamid helped Mahmoud? In order to identify which form the verb we use, we look at the doer of the verb, and depending on who the doer of the verb is, then we will know which form of the verb to use. So in the example of Hamid helped Mahmoud, Hamid, that's third person, masculine, and singular, right? Hamid is one person, he's a male, and we're talking about Hamid in the third person. Hamid helped Mahmoud. So we will use this form here, fa'ala. So it'll be nasara. So the verb we'll be using is nasara, and then we will bring the fa'il next, right? Because you bring the fa'il after the fa'il. The fa'il is Hamid, so it'll be Hamidun, because Hamid is a name that accepts tanween. So it'll be Nasara, Hamidun, and then the last we bring the maf'ul, and we put a fatha on the maf'ul, Mahmudan. So Mahmud is also a name that accepts tanween. So it'll be Nasara Hamidun Mahmudan. So the thing to keep in mind is that the fa'il comes first, the fa'il comes second, the maf'ul comes third. And the fa'il takes dhamma, the maf'ul takes fatha. So the way that you differentiate between the fa'il and the maf'ul is the fa'il takes dhamma, the maf'ul takes fatha. Okay. Let's do another example. A servant opened a door. Okay. So here they give you the Arabic for each word. Servant is khadim, opened is fataha, door is baban. Okay, so a servant opened a door. The first thing, if you're translating this into Arabic, is we would uh, put the verb first, right? So we write the verb first. The verb for open is fataha. So again, it could be fataha, it could be fatahu, it could be fatahat, it could be fatahtu, fatahna, depending on who the doer is. Here, the doer is a servant. This is third person, singular, masculine. Okay, and so because it's for third person, singular, masculine, we're going to bring fataha. Is fataha, and then you bring the fa'il, the doer, which is servant. So who's doing the action? The servant is, and it's a servant, so that's why it's khadimun. Because remember, when a noun is indefinite, then you give it a tanween. Right? If it was the servant, you would say al-khadimu, but because here it's indefinite, a servant, it's not specific, we give it a tanween. So it's fataha khadimun And we're saying khadimun, not khadiman or khadimin. Why? Because the fa'il, the rule is the fa'il takes a dhamma. Okay, very important. The fa'il takes dhamma. So it's fataha khadimun, and the Arabic for door is baban. And here, because it's a door, again, it's indefinite, it's not specific. If it was the door, it would be al-baba, but because it's indefinite, it's baban. We give it a tanween. So it'll be fataha khadimun baban. A servant opened a door. Fataha khadimun baban. If you wanted to say the servant opened the door, it would be fataha al khadimu al baba. Okay. Um, and in this section of the lesson, the author mentions that sometimes the doer or the object, the fa'il or the maf'ul, is not a single word, like in the above examples of Hamid and Mahmud, where the fa'il and the maf'ul was a single word. Sometimes the fa'il or the maf'ul is two words. For example, it could be a mudaf ilay. So the first example is when the fa'il is a mudaf ilay. So if you wanted to say Mahmud's servant opened the door, Mahmud's servant opened the door. Here, the verb is open. The doer of the verb is Mahmud's servant. This is two words. This is two words. So the way that we translate this is we would bring the verb first, fataha, and the key point to keep in mind when you're dealing with mudaf ilay is that in a mudaf ilay, the mudaf comes first, the mudaf ilay comes second, and the mudaf is what is the doer, right? Mahmud's servant opened the door. Mahmud is not the one opening the door. Mahmud is not the fa'il. It's the servant who's the fa'il. Okay, so we have to look at the servant. That's our main focus. The servant is the one doing the action. So the servant, the word for servant is khadim. Right? Mahmud servant. This is translated as khadimu Mahmudin. Right? Remember the mudaf ilay always takes kasra, and the mudaf it has a dhamma. Why? Because the mudaf, this is the fa'il. The rule for the fa'il is that the fa'il takes dhamma. That's why it's fataha khadimu mahmudin. Mahmudin because it's mudaf ilay. And then for the door, that's the maf'ul, we say al-baba. So here it's al because it's the door. And it's al-baba, not al-babu or al-babi, because this is the maf'ul. The maf'ul takes a fatha. Okay. We'll stop here, inshallah.